Hey, welcome into another episode of After the Buzzers. Happy St. Patrick's Day to everybody. I see my guys don't have their green on, but I'm supporting it for us here. They got the merchandise. Check it out. We talked about it last week. We'll be doing some trivia, getting you guys some stuff. But in the meantime, we come at you at a perfect time. The NCAA selection show has just ended. So we're going to talk to our Hall of Famer Marv a little bit about that later on in the show. Of course, as I call him, the Professor Lee Jones. As always, I'm Chris Sawyer. Real quick, though, before we move on, we're going to get into the NCAA tournament. But we've got our number one seeds. We've got Houston, UConn, UNC, and Purdue. So we'll talk about that a little bit, what we think of that. A lot of upsets in the conference tournaments. We'll break those down as well. But hey, guys, we talked about this last week. We're going to get right into our first subject: free agency in the NFL. It is. I think there's some guys that have receipts that actually predicted some things last week on the show. Both of you guys did, and I kind of want to get into that because you look at the Steelers and some other things that have happened with trades and free agency. But Lee, I'm going to start with you on this one because you had talked about. I'm going to jump with Fields a little bit and Wilson. You had talked about the Steelers and things like that. So talk about your thoughts on that, and then whatever else you want to talk about with the free agency.
The Russell Wilson to the Steelers was perfect. I think for Russell and the Steelers. We talked about it last week, and we talked about the Steelers having 13 touchdowns and 9 interceptions between three quarterbacks last year, and so that it was perfect for them to get an upgrade. Russell had 26 touchdowns, 8 interceptions, and just the professionalism that he's going to bring and the deep ball that he throws. I think that's the most. With Pickens on one side, they have the tight end, Freiermuth. They have weapons all over that team, and so Russell Wilson being able to throw that deep ball is going to be very, very important for the Steelers. And then I just love the Justin Fields pickup. He went to a team where he doesn't have to come in and start. Even though I think he could start for the Steelers, I think he could be a playmaker for the Steelers, but he doesn't have to. He can sit, and there's talk that the Steelers are going to extend Russell Wilson even further after this year, which I think is a good idea. I think people all sold Russell very short this past season. He played very very good football on a very difficult situation, difficult circumstances. And so I look for Russell Wilson to upgrade the Steelers. They were 10-7 last year. I think, hey, the sky's the limit for them this year in a tough division and a tough conference. But I love the pickup of Russell Wilson. I like the pickup of Justin Fields because you can have Justin Fields as a quarterback that you can bridge to in 2 or 3 years.
And Lee, when you look at some of this stuff, and I'm gonna get to you in a second, Marv. Are there any big splashes that you've seen so far in free agency that kind of stick out in your mind?
I don't like, everybody's in love with the Kirk Cousins, the Atlanta thing. I don't like that. I thought Fields to Atlanta was a no-brainer because of, he's a Georgia boy. He's from that area. It would have been a shot of adrenaline in the arm to the Falcons organization and the Falcons in the city. Cousins, to me, same thing you're going to get from him. You've got from him every year. He's going to have 4 or 5 games where he's off the chain, 300 yards, maybe 400 yards. He's going to have 2 or 3 games where he throws 3 interceptions and then a mixture in between. That's who Kirk Cousins is. That's who he's been his whole career. So I'm not really crazy about that. We talked about, and we'll talk about Saquon going to the Eagles. I think that's a great pickup for the Eagles. I think he'll be used similarly to what McCaffrey is in San Francisco. He doesn't have to take the full workload, but he can be used in a capacity where he is going to excel. Derrick Henry to Baltimore. Great pickup. I'm interested to see what Marv thinks about that because he hates on Lamar Jackson all the time. I want to see if he thinks that's a good pickup. But those are the things that stick out to me right now. Those big acquisitions. But I love the Russell Wilson to the Pittsburgh. And I'm not a Steeler fan, but I think that was a very good pickup.
And Marv, I know you talked about this all last week on our show too. What are your thoughts on Fields and then what Lee said as well?
I mean, I think it's a good situation for him. I think it's a win-win for him. I think Chicago probably didn't get what they were exactly expecting, but I think they needed to pull the trigger. What was it, a 6th round with conditional if he plays a certain amount of snaps, it goes up to a 4th round pick for Chicago. I think that's the case. But I think it's a good pickup and a place for Fields to be. Listen, and you get Russell Wilson back to maybe being the Russell Wilson of the Seattle days. Great defense. You're not asking him to do a lot. really good running game in Pittsburgh. With the division, that is a little bit up in the air. Joe Burrow's health is always a concern. He hasn't been healthy for the past couple of seasons. You have Cleveland, we don't know what we're going to get with Deshaun. So, and then you got Baltimore. Now, I do think the Derrick Henry pickup was great. He a Bama boy, so I'm gonna always support that, regardless of Lamar Jackson. But people not talking about. There's been some attrition on that roster though with the Ravens that people aren't really talking about. So we're gonna see if it's gonna be more of a rebuild or retooling when it comes to Baltimore. But I don't have any questions about Baltimore. Their front office is really good. They're always going to kind of plug and play. Lamar's a great talent. He's got to win some playoff games. We know that, but Derrick Henry's going to take a little bit of that pressure off of him. So I love the move. Eagles to me were the winners with Barkley. I think they got the Bryce Huff guy. Look, we can go beyond the Saquon Barkley pickup. Bryce Huff was a big pickup for them. They got C.J. Gardner back in the secondary. They struggled in the secondary last year, so that was a big pickup for him. Who's notably absent is Dallas, but I know we'll get to that in a little bit. You got the Packers adding Josh Jacobs, another Bama boy, and Xavier McKinney, another Bama boy. So the Packers making moves. You got the Raiders who added Christian Wilkins with Max Crosby. I thought that was a good pickup for them. And the 49ers. They added Leonard Floyd, and I think they got the Eric Hendricks, guy from linebacker that they needed when Greenlaw went down. So I think that was a big pickup for him. His efficiency is high. I'm surprised Dallas didn't go out after him with who's your coordinator, Zimmer. Surprised they couldn't get him with Zimmer.
You know who the coordinator is, Marv. Don't be
surprised they couldn't get him with Zimmer being his old coach in Minnesota. But we'll go into that a little bit later with Dallas Cowboys and their ineffectiveness in the front office. So I also think Minnesota did a good job with losing Cousins. But what they did was, and they also lost a really good front four, but they replaced it with some youth. They replaced it with some ascending players. And then what they also did was free up money for Justin Jefferson. I mean, that's really what they did. You got Sam Darnold on a 1-year deal for $10 million. We all know what he's going to be. I mean, we're not expecting Sam Darnold to lead them anywhere, but this was more about Justin Jefferson than anything else. So I'm cool with it. And actually, the Giants. We know the Giants aren't going to contend for anything, but they got two of the best 5 offensive lineman free agents that were out there that were available. So the Giants made some pretty good moves for it. And then they got rid of someone. They got rid of Barkley. They got rid of McKinney, which I don't blame them for a team that's not going to contend. So they actually did a pretty good job to me. So, that's kind of my takes right now in the NFL free agency. But sadly, the Cowboys are nowhere to be found.
You're talking about all these trash teams. Nobody wants to hear about these trash teams, the Giants and all that. That's pitiful. By the way, Eric Kendricks was going to sign with San Francisco, but he changed his mind and signed with Dallas, by the way, just so you know, Marv. He
must have just did that.
He did that right 2 days ago, actually, but he signed with the Cowboys instead of San Francisco. But let me say something.
Wait, Marv, I've never seen Lee bite his tongue more than he did when you made that comment, because I knew what was coming. But no, go ahead, Lee.
Absolutely.
Go ahead.
The Eagles, Marv, I don't know why you think the Eagles they've done so much. Look, they still have a problem up the middle, their defensive core up the middle. Fletcher Cox retired. Jalen Carter, down the stretch of the season, he got worse and worse and worse. They lost the center, Kelsey. So they still have some holes that they need to fill. So I'm not sure why people think that the Eagles have progressed so much. I disagree with that. The Vikings, look, Sam Darnold, they should have gotten a quarterback. Sam Darnold's not going to be the answer at the quarterback position. And again, I think the big losers is think about this, what Atlanta did with Kirk Cousins. They gave Kirk Cousins $180 million, $100 million guaranteed, right? $100 million guaranteed. So this guy's just been making money hands over foot, but he hadn't won anything. And he hadn't done anything his entire career.
I mean, what you can't blame.
I know what you're going to say
somebody for getting paid. You can't blame somebody for getting paid, man.
But I don't see why Atlanta thinks that's the missing piece that's going to put them over the hump, Mark, because that certainly is not. That certainly is not the piece. I like the Josh Jacob pickup in Green Bay. I think that was a good pickup. We need our boy Jordan Love to continue to progress and not make some of the throws that he made down the stretch against San Francisco. But yeah, I don't. Ray says the Commanders had the best free agent pickup. I wouldn't say the best. They should have tried to get Justin Fields. I do agree with that, Ray. But the Commanders have done a decent job. But let's be honest. Let's be honest. We Baltimore set themselves up to again contend for the title at a high level by getting Derrick Henry, because what it'll do, it'll make sure that they never abandon the run, Marv, and that's huge. They'll never abandon the run with Derrick Henry in the backfield, and I think that's a great thing, along with the power game inside, Lamar outside. So I like what Baltimore did, and I think clearly with the team, the Ravens did lose a few players, but players that they can't replace. I think they're a huge winner in free agency.
All right, now you guys are watching After the Buzzers here on ISF Productions. Before we go to the Cowboys, Marv, anything you want to respond with that?
I mean, time will tell, just like it does with everything. So we'll see. I still think the Eagles did a pretty good job replacing and doing some things. I think the Brian Huff pickup was really big. The Bryce Huff was a really big pickup for them. Jalen Carr is going into his second year. So they went out and did the things that they felt like they needed to do as a franchise to maybe get to that next level. So I'm okay with it. I think Baltimore's losses are bigger than what people are saying. But we'll see. We'll see how it plays out. It's just not one person that's going to make an NFL team or take you to the Super Bowl. They got a lot of little pieces that they lost that were integral to what they did last year. So we'll see how that plays out.
And hey, Ray, thanks for the comment. Everybody else that's out there, we want to hear your opinions too. Very interactive show. Make sure you comment, like, and subscribe to us as well. All right, Marv brought up the Cowboys. So Lee, I'm gonna start with you on this one. I'm disappointed in them. There's interesting things going on. Derrick Henry said Jerry didn't even call him, and that's someone I really thought we'd go after now that Pollard's not with us. I mean, right now Deuce Vaughn is our number one running back. I know there's some talk with Zeke maybe coming back, but what are you thinking about the Cowboys? Every year they kind of disappoint me a little bit in free agency.
Well, Chris, the Cowboys, historically, last 8 to 10 years, they haven't signed free agents. They build through the draft. They draft their own players. They develop them, and you've seen the results. All right, you've seen 12 win seasons for the last 3 seasons. So you've seen the results. They develop their homegrown talent. I'm not overly concerned about it, because you have to look at Dallas's free agency like this. Dak Prescott, CeeDee Lamb, and Micah Parsons. You won't get 3 bigger free agents than that. You won't get 3 bigger free agents. That's who they have to sign. That's who they have to make sure they take care of so that they can continue to maintain for the future. I didn't think they would, the pie in the sky view would have been sign Derrick Henry, to sign Saquon Barkley. Fact of the matter is they didn't have the money to sign those guys. They only had $2 million in salary cap room, and so they have to extend that. They have to extend CD. They didn't have the money. So I get it. Ezekiel Elliott, I think bringing him back would be huge for the Cowboys. They should bring Ezekiel Elliott back, but watch how Dallas drafts a back in this upcoming draft. The running back position is very, very deep in this upcoming draft. So I'm not really in arms about anything. I just think that they're going about their business the way they go about their business. The only thing I look for them to do is sign some help in the defensive line area. And I think they'll be fine. Their offensive line, losing Tyron Smith, I'm not overly concerned about that, because you can kick Tyler Smith out. They have T.J. Bass, and they signed Lyle Collins last year that can play guard. So it's not something that I'm overly worried about, other than I look for them to get a running back in the draft and some defensive line help.
Sandra, thanks for the comment. Time will tell, Marv. Marv, what do you got to say on that with the Cowboys?
I mean, you needed a left tackle, you needed a center, you needed a running back. But, I expect nothing less from Cowboys fans to act like, all is well in the Big D. Like, we just been winning Super Bowls and we just plug and play with draft choice. You ain't won a Super Bowl in 30 years, man. And we sitting here acting like the Cowboys didn't need to make moves to substantially make their team better. And sitting here acting like there wasn't free agents out there that could have done that. But I guess so. I guess you develop players through the draft, and I guess you would develop your homegrown talent, and it's got you no Super Bowl, and it's got you no Super Bowls in 30 years. So to me, that's not development. That's being hard headed. And that's what you got in Jerry Jones. You got a perfect salesman with no results. And if you like that, then that's exactly what you're gonna get, the status quo, and that's exactly what you're gonna get next year. You've done nothing to make you've done nothing to make your team better. And what you're gonna be is again the same version of what you were last year, putting it on Dak Prescott to win you a playoff game when we know traditionally all he does is fold. And I know you want to throw stats and you want to throw numbers and you want to throw all these things about how great Dak Prescott is, but he can't win playoff games. He can't win big games, and he can't get you to where you need to be. Derrick Henry, you should have found a way to find the money. I don't care what you did. You need somebody to take the pressure off of Dak Prescott so he's not having to win football games for you, because we know he can't do it. Okay? So you need to find somebody to alleviate that pressure off. You need to get somebody else that defenses fear. You mean to tell me Derrick Henry lining up in the backfield, getting the ball down in the end of the third, going into the fourth, holding the 3-point lead, and you can give him 20 carries down the stretch to close out games wouldn't help you? That wouldn't help you?
The issue is not Derrick Henry. The issue is, and I give you credit, continue to improve the offensive line. They can kick Tyler Smith out to tackle, so we don't have a problem, an issue with tackle. They may even draft the tackle number 1 to keep Smith at guard, so that'll be taken care of. That they have people to replace the center. Biotis went to the Commanders. We're not really worried about that. Biotis had issues in his pass protect, so I'm not too much worried about that. But Marv, you keep saying, look, we the second winningest team over the last 3 years in the regular season. Now, I know it hasn't translated to playoffs, but you can't say that developing homegrown talent is not something that as a strength of theirs, because they've done it. And they've won.
So it used to be about championships in Dallas. Now it's about well, look, we won 12 games. We win 12 games a year. It's a successful season for us. That's where we are right now in Dallas, everybody. So all you Cowboys fans, I get it. 10, 11, 12 wins a year for you guys. If that's enough, that's what you got. Great. And by the way, I thought last year you were supposed to get back to running the ball. I thought Tony Pollard was going to be the answer for you. I thought he was going to be your every down back. I thought y'all had no worries about letting Zeke go. And as a matter of fact, if I'm reading statistics correctly, you rushed for 20 yards less per game with Tony Pollard than you did with Ezekiel Elliott. And he had a better season in New England behind a trash offensive line. And now you want to try to get him back, because I could have swore that you said you didn't need him last year. I could have swore y'all said let's let Zeke walk because we got. I'm talking about Cowboys fans, because we got Tony Pollard. Tony Pollard is a change of pace. He can be our every down back. Now he's in Tennessee, and now you scrambling to try to find him back, and you acting like you didn't need to find one in free agency, and you acting like Dak Prescott can lead you to a Super Bowl and win you playoff games when 9 years tells you opposite. I mean, how many years does he have to prove that he can win a big game? How many years do we go here? He's Kirk Cousins to me. I'm not mad at that. He getting paid for no results. What has he won more? What has Kirk Cousins done more than Dak Prescott? They look the same to me. Big contracts with no results.
Dak Prescott was second in the MVP voting. Kirk Cousins has never been in that stratosphere, Marv. Look. Everybody has the trump card. We did not win. I get it.
That's the biggest trump card. That's the biggest trump card of all.
But who won? 31 other teams. This is Kansas City's show, so we're in the same boat as everybody
30
else.
Years. 30 years.
That's what we
30
are.
years.
It's been 31 for San Francisco, but it's been 31 years.
We're not talking about. So this is what we do now. We divert. We go to other teams. We talk about America's team. We talk about why are we worried about San Francisco and what they haven't won? We worried about what you haven't won and what you didn't effectively do in free agency, which was not make your team better. And then you're gonna talk about you're gonna make it better through the draft when you have made it better through the draft in terms of making you a Super Bowl contender in 25, 26, 27, 30, 31 years.
Second winningest team in the last 3 years. So obviously,
with no Super Bowls,
has happened. We have not won a Super Bowl. I'll give you that. But you cannot say that the success on the field hadn't been there, because it had. We hadn't won the Super Bowl. I give you that. But we're headed in that direction. Trust me, Dallas does not build their team through free agency. They haven't done it. That's not their philosophy. They've drafted.
Let me ask you this. Let me ask all Cowboy fans this. You particularly, since I got you here.
Fans.
Would anybody be giving Dak Prescott this pass? I mean, would you give any other quarterback the pass that you give in Dak Prescott with the lack of results in terms of things that matter, not statistically. It's fine. Okay, he's second in MVP. He throws for a whole bunch of yards. But would any other quarterback get a pass the way that Dak has gotten the pass, and with the
So
inability
everybody
to
gets
win
a
games that
pass.
matter?
Everybody gets a pass. Everybody gets a pass. Lamar Jackson's got a pass. Josh Allen's got
He
a
ain't
pass.
getting a
Brock
pass.
Purdy's
He
got a
getting
pass.
killed.
All of them get a pass.
He get
All of them
killed.
get a pass, but they're not
Lamar
winning.
get killed.
They're all
Lamar's
in the
been
same
getting
boat.
killed. Brock Purdy, y'all call Brock Purdy Mr.
They're all in
Irrelevant.
the
You
same
saying he's
boat.
not good enough to win games.
They're all in the same
So the
boat,
same
though, right?
don't apply. They don't. But the same doesn't apply to Dak.
No,
So Dak's not good
but
enough
y'all-
then, because that's what they say
And
about
Chris, I
Lamar.
know we
That's what they say about Brock.
I know we have to move on, Chris, but my deal is this: all of those guys, y'all don't kill as much as Dak Prescott. Y'all crucify him, but none of these guys have won anything
Because it's America's
so they're in
team.
the same boat. But Dallas,
It's America's team.
You're absolutely right, and I love it. You talk about San Francisco and all these other teams. Dallas is still right there with them, headed towards the Super Bowl. We asked you, the question was there an issue with the lack of free agent signings? No, because that's not how Dallas builds his team, and they've been a very successful team. Chris, I'll turn it back to you.
With no Super Bowl.
Yeah, we're going to leave it on that because I knew that segment would go long. But Sanders in Mars Court on there with her comments.
Ray too. Thank you, Ray. We know they cowgirls.
We know
they cowgirls.
Ray Blackwell, that's blasphemy.
We know they cowgirls.
All right, so hey, let's get into the big thing that's been going on this weekend, the conference tournaments. We just had, right before we went on the air, we had the selection show. A lot going on. I can't wait. But I'm start with Mar, but first I'm gonna throw out what I've seen. I'm an ACC, love watching the ACC tournament. NC State, 5 games in a row, beat the Blue Bloods. Duke, Virginia, broke my heart. A backboard into the basket shot. I mean, a bank shot at the buzzer to go to overtime. Then took down Carolina yesterday. Great run by them. What did I say? 21 number 1 seeds didn't win their tournament. But then 17 of those 21 didn't even make it to the championship game. So there's a lot of parity right now in college basketball. Marv, you being our guy that played, talk about what you saw in the tournaments this weekend. And I don't even know if you've been able to look at the bracket as we were getting ready for the show, but what you see as we get into the tournament and recap the weekend.
Yeah, I got a chance to glance at the bracket. There's some interesting seedings and some interesting pairings as you kind of get through. But the tournament is a tournament. It's to be expected. 1 game scenarios, anything can happen. Anybody can get hot, and anybody cannot play well. That's the beauty of college basketball, right? That 1 game where you just never know. Now, NC State was pretty unpredictable, like that. Nobody saw that one coming. But North Carolina will do that sometimes to you. North Carolina will fade and they'll get disinterested and they'll let teams hang around. So I wasn't, I'm surprised NC State won the ACC tournament, but I wasn't surprised by some of these teams and their inability to kind of get themselves together. Even with Houston, I know they're going through some injuries and there's some things about Houston that concerns me in terms of their ability to score. Defensively, it's going to keep them in games. But I just saw some things, particularly in the Big 12 tournament, that concerns me if I'm a Houston, fan. They got a problem scoring the basketball. So we'll kind of see how that goes. But listen, I was watching the Big East, and good luck with UConn. I'm look, I'm gonna tell you that right now because they're deep. They defend their butts off. They got about 3 or 4 guys that could probably get you 20 on any night. That point guard he controls the whole game. But listen, Marquette can do the same. I mean, I was impressed by Marquette, even though UConn ended up winning. I think Marquette is a scary team. Iowa State, watching them, they defended really well also. And the thing that a lot of people don't understand about the NCAA tournament is it slows down. You've got a lot of TV timeouts. It gets hard to get in rhythm and on run. So teams that are really, really good defensively and they got guys that can get buckets, you can get a ball, give it to and create shots, tend to make deep runs. So I'm looking at UConn. I think that Auburn team is scary. I think they're top 10 in efficiency on defense. They're top 10 in efficiency on offense. That's a scary combination. And they got that Auburn-UConn matchup lurking. If they both can make it to the Sweet 16, I kind of saw that one. That was going to be interesting to me. I got to give a shout out to the Bama boys. My heart, because I love my Bama boys, and I think they got a good draw. But if I'm being, a realist when it comes, they don't guard nobody. They're not going to outscore everybody. That their talent doesn't warrant that. So I don't see them making it really past the round of 32. I think they just got so many deficiencies defensively that I just got to kind of keep that real. But UConn to me is going to be tough.
Yeah. Hey, Mar, real quick, Mar, what do you think about Kentucky? In that,
it's another.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, Chris, it's another one of those where Kentucky has made that transition into offense. It used to be all about defense with Kentucky. Now they want to outscore you. They look disinterested on the defensive end. And if you're not hitting shots in the tournament and you're not interested in playing really, really, sound defense, you can be out quick. And if they're not hitting shots, it's going to be tough for them to advance. Now, they got some great talent from an individual standpoint, but they got to score the ball. And if they're not defending, they're going to have trouble. Now, a team that lost in the SEC tournament that I think that people need to watch out for is Tennessee. Tennessee can guard their butts off. And if they can connect to elevate his game and get, a couple other guys to step up, which they can, I think Tennessee can make a deep run too, because they can guard. They can guard like nobody else in this tournament. So there's about 4 or 5 teams I think realistically could win this thing. But to me right now, UConn is top. But two teams, James Madison. I don't know if you guys have watched James Madison this year, but they got 2 dudes on there. Okay, they got 2 dudes on there that can, and the McNeese State. I know they were going to be Indiana State was going to be my other sleeper, but they didn't get in. But McNeese State got 2 guys that can score at anybody in the country, and that's what you need in the tournament. Watch those 2. Because I think Sanford gets Kansas. That one's another kind of Kansas is not healthy. The Dickerson kid isn't playing. But watch McNeese State and James Madison. Don't be surprised.
Yeah, those are 2 good sleepers, Marv. James Madison was in the Sun Belt, so Arkansas State's in the Sun Belt, so I watched them play, and man, 31-3. They have talent. They play fast. That's a team that's going. I'm not going to say win the tournament, but that's certainly a team that when you, as playing an NCAA tournament, you don't see these guys often, and it's going to be hard to adjust. And then Southland champions, McNeese State. That's a good team. I like Auburn too. I mean, I like UConn too, Mar. UConn has a complete team. I mean, they could, to your point, everything that you said is true, and it's going to be tough to beat those guys. But the rest of the field and all of the other brackets is really wide open. You look at all of the matchups that are going to be out there. Any team right now could get beat. Any team could get beat, and it could get beat by lower seeds. These conference, the one thing I love about the tournament is these guys that win their conference championships have battled all season. They're tested, true and true. So the moment they're not going to be afraid of. You get these conference champions from some of these smaller conferences where they played their tournament, and they're coming in with 28-4 records. And so they're not afraid to go up against these teams. And to your point, defense is not the calling card anymore. It's can you shoot the 3 now that all of these teams are going towards, and that's what we saw in the conference tournaments, man. I mean, Wisconsin winning the Big Ten, right? Wisconsin got hot. I look at the AAC because of course I've seen those teams in Memphis being in the AAC, and you look at UAB. UAB can play. And they can play with the big boys. They can put it in. So all of those teams are scary, scary teams that you have to look at. And it's going to be interesting. What's going to make the tournament so interesting is these lower seeds, and there are going to be a lot of upsets, I feel, early on. Auburn, I've always liked Bruce Pearl as a coach. I mean, he lets his players play, Marv. He let them do their thing. He coaches them hard, but he let them play. They have size, so they're going to be okay. My thing with North Carolina is this. North Carolina they have the size, they have scoring, they streaky scoring. I don't know about the distribution of the basketball with them, Marv. And Baycock is good. Now, don't get me wrong, Baycock is good, but sometimes he's not the force that he was last year, this year. So North Carolina, I was disappointed in them. NC State should not have beat them. And that was disappointing to see that happen. So in the conference tournament, so I was really disappointed in that. But I look forward to the tournament because it's going to be wide open. Other than I think UConn's going to cruise to the finals.
Keep some space for Texas A&M. Buzz Peterson is good in the tournament. He got 3 guards that are dogs, and that could all 3 get you 20. And we know the tournament is dominated by guard play. So I think they got an 8-9 matchup. If they can get through that first one, keep an eye out for Texas A&M because they hard, right? Also Creighton. I know a lot of people don't talk about Creighton, but they got the big kid. They slow to get their game. The way they play is tailored for the tournament. It's slow. It's methodical. They run a bunch of sets, double staggers. They got shooters. So watch Creighton. I think they got a pretty good seed and a draw as well. So those are 2 teams that watch them. Sandra, I'm Auburn, like Lee said, Auburn and Connecticut. If we get to that point in Sweet 16, that game is going to be crazy. I'm telling you, because you're going to have dogs on. Yeah, you're going to have dogs on dogs, and Bruce Pearl team ain't backing down to nobody. I can tell you that right now. And I know a couple coaches on that staff. They feel like they can win the national championship. And when you got that confidence and you got dogs out there and you got guys who kind of been through the battle with a coach that don't care about nobody, that's a recipe for success. So I really hope we can get that Sweet 16 matchup because that'll be a fun game to watch.
Mark, out west don't, and I know Alabama is in the West, but don't forget about Arizona out in the West. I mean, they lost a couple of games that they probably should have won. But always a great team out west, and they're out west, so they have an advantage. But I think, it's going to be interesting. That's why I don't think North Carolina needs to get it together because they do. Alabama could sneak up on North Carolina, so it's just how the brackets shake out. But Arizona's going to be a tough team out west as well as this thing goes. Now, Recycle Me had a question: what happened to Memphis? I just think Memphis had a bunch of senior, selfish players that didn't buy in to what Coach Hardaway was trying to do. And I say that because you don't go 15-2 and beat the teams that they beat in the pre-conference and early on in the conference and then struggle the way they struggled down the stretch if they didn't have the me attitude. And it cost them. Their camaraderie was bad. And for them to lose to Wichita State, that was embarrassing, both for Coach Penny Hardaway, for those players, and for the city of Memphis. Now, I think that's a player thing, and we've talked about this in past shows. How you build a team matters, but I think that's what happened to Memphis more than on the court coaching. I think that the culture, as far as what he had on that team, was bad.
Go ahead, Chris. Go ahead.
No, sorry, Mark. Mark, I'm going to let you answer this real quick because I know we'll have to move on. But with the Memphis question, we talked about Penny and all the stuff going on in the locker room and then say, no, we're not even going to play in the NIT. I'll let you say what you're going to say, Mark, but kind of talk about that too as you get into your comment, because I know a lot of teams are opting out of the NIT, but I think that frustration just boiled over where they don't even, he doesn't even want to play anymore right now with the team he has.
I mean, I don't blame him. If the kids, you come together. I played in NIT. We made an NIT Final Four in Madison Square Garden, but we came together before. We rate on the bubble. We didn't make the NCAA tournament, and it's a buy-in. If kids aren't buying into it, then what's the point? So I'm okay with him saying there's no reason for us to play because Jones is probably thinking about the NBA at this point. The NIT is not doing anything for him. Quinterly's probably done. I think he's, his college career is said and done. It's not going to really do much for him. So I'm okay with it. I think Penny needs to establish a culture. And if you look at some of the better teams in the NCAA, they're culture building programs. So guards that have been around for a couple of years that create toughness, that create identity. Memphis didn't really have an identity this year. We talked about this on several occasions where we didn't know what they were trying to accomplish. And it was nothing against the kids that played there or against the way that it goes. I think Penny wanted to let his kids play, but you still got to have some kind of identity. And I never knew what it was. When I watch Auburn, When I watch Houston, when I watch Connecticut, I know when I watch Marquette, I know what their identity is. We're going to get up in you and we're going to make it real hard for you to score. And then we're going to spread you and we're going to take you to the rack and we're going to do what we do. That's the identity. But it all starts defensively. And you just never saw that with Memphis. I didn't know what they were. I didn't know what they were. So, and that's pretty much what you get, what you saw.
Well, I mean, well said, Mark. Well said. Well said. Ray, I like Houston. I just think Houston is beat up. I think they have to get healthy. But to Mar's point early on, Houston gonna guard you. That's Kelvin Sampson's calling card. So they're never going to be out of a game. I mean, they're just never going to be out of a game. And Houston could make a run all the way through in this tournament. There is no doubt about that. So Ray, that's a good choice. It's just with the injuries, to Mar's point, with the injuries set them back the way it did in the tournament. But they have a great shot at advancing to the Final Four. It's like, but it's open though. To your point, Marv, all of these teams have little things that may keep them from advancing and could hurt them as they advance on. Because, like I said, these smaller seeds and these conference champs, they're not afraid of these big boys anymore, and that bodes well for them in the tournament.
And they all got guards that can play, you know, at any school in the country. That's the difference is the size and the depth, right? That's the only difference. McNeese State, James Madison, I don't care who you talk, Yale, I don't care who you talk about. All these guys got guards that can play, right? So that's not the issue. There's another team real quick that I'm going to say that like Memphis bought in a lot of transfers, but they built an identity because they bought in guards that were bigger and tougher and were really good defensively. Is South Carolina. I think Paris did a great job at South Carolina this year. I think they are hard-nosed. I think they got a bad matchup with Oregon. But I wouldn't be surprised if South Carolina snuck into a Sweet 16 because they're going to grind the hell out of you. They're going to make it nasty. They're going to make it ugly. And those kind of games are made for the NCAA tournament. All the timeouts with no rhythm being able to be established. When you got gritty, grinding, you know, defensive-minded teams, watch out for South Carolina if they can get past Oregon because their guards, they can guard. They like Tennessee. They hard nose. So that's another team to just kind of keep an eye out for.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%, Marv. All right, again, you're watching After the Buzzers. Keep the comments coming. We appreciate the interactiveness. All right, guys. So we talked about the men's tournament. We also have the women's tournament coming up. We've talked about Caitlin Clark, you know, putting the women on the map right now. What are you more interested in? Lee, I'm going to start with you since Marv just ended that one. The men's tournament, the women's tournament, the same? Like, how do you look at both those tournaments?
Well, I mean, so the women's tournament for the pure joy of watching the competition between South Carolina and LSU and what Caitlin Clark is going to do. If those matchups occur in the tournament and how close we get to that, I think that tops the cake because we've seen that. People are interested in that. And so I think if we can get one or two of those matchups, the women's tournament, we look forward and it's going to be exciting. But overall, Chris, look, we're going to watch more of the men's tournament than we are of the women's tournament. That's just the way it is because the depth, even though we have good players in the women's tournament, the overall depth of the teams, we don't know. There's not a tremendous interest in, even though the women's tournament is very good, as it is in the men's tournament. And so we're going to watch the majority of those men's games, and we're going to love it. But that doesn't take anything away from the women's tournament. So I think there's interest if we get the matchups that we want in the women's tournament. I think from a viewership perspective, certainly the men's tournament will be watched more.
And do you think it's more like the Final Fours when you get the bigger viewership with the women, especially because you have those matchups? I look at that. Was it Iowa-Nebraska championship game? Was it last weekend? That's what I think. I think it's more, as you said, a lot of it's blowouts. But once you get towards the Final Four, you get those matchups you want.
If we can get, and I'll let Marv go, if we can get somehow either, LSU and, we have three teams that we think are pure. We want to see LSU. We want to see South Carolina. We want to see Caitlin Clark in Iowa. There are a couple other teams, we always are interested in UConn. There's always a couple other teams that we want to see. Now, that Final Four, if those teams match up in it, yeah. But when you talk about some of the blue bloods in the men's game, you're always going to get viewership if North Carolina's there. You're always going to get it. UConn, you're going to get viewership. So I still say the men's game will draw more. That doesn't take away from the excitement that we have for the women's game, especially if there's some the matchups that we're looking for. Caitlin Clark against South Carolina, LSU against Iowa, those type of matchups. And then again, there are other great teams in the women's game, but that's that's my opinion.
Norma disagrees with you, Lee, so I'm going to go over to Marv. He's got a little connection with Norma. Let's see what Marv says.
Yeah. I listen, if I'm talking from like a pure basketball standpoint and like quality of basketball, I think the women's tournament might be better. So because of course USC is USC. Don has built something at USC that everybody's trying to replicate. They excel in every facet of the game. Hell, I think this team is better in most facets than last year's team, and that's saying a lot with what she lost. But once you get past USC and LSU's and Stanford and Iowa and those kind of schools, you got about 10 other programs that perennially have built, championship level basketball teams. Like you literally got 8 to 10 schools in this tournament that probably could win a championship and are playing really, really good basketball. You Southern Cals and Ohio States. You got, we can go down the list. So from a basketball standpoint, I think there's going to be some really good games. And even that second tier in the women's game could, if the breaks fall right, could probably beat a South Carolina and beat some of these other schools. Like it's just like that. It's just like that right now. You don't have the days anymore in women's basketball when it was UConn and Tennessee, and then it was just everybody else just trying to, who's going to step up and get drubbed. You don't have that now. You got a lot of parity in the women's game. So viewership wise, sure. Of course the men are going to get more. But if I'm talking from a pure basketball standpoint and matchups and who could realistically win championships, I think the women have more teams and they have more parity. And then you still have the great stories within it. You still have the Caitlin Clarks and the Angel Reeses and USC and what they're doing, but you still have a lot of unknowns because people just don't watch it as much as maybe I do because I'm a basketball head. But I see the women's, from a pure basketball standpoint, I'm really interested to see how this tournament plays out because you got a lot of teams out there that are really, really good.
Yeah. I agree with you. I mean, talent-wise, yeah. I just think recognition, name recognition matters when we talk about viewership, and that's what's going to keep them down. I mean, and again, women's game. I love the women's game. But from a pure perspective of looking at the excitement, trust me, people take off for the men's tournament, no matter who is the dominant team. And in this year, with everybody seemingly having a shot in the men's tournament, I think the viewership in the men's tournament is going to be, as it always is, up there very high. I do think as we progress, and people are going to want to watch Angel Reese, and they're going to want to watch Caitlin Clark, and they're going to want to watch South Carolina play. There's no doubt in the USC, and they're there, and Juju out in Southern Cal. They're going to want to watch that talent. But the men's game is going to carry that much. But that doesn't mean that it's a knock on the women's game, and I don't want anybody to take it that way. I'm talking about the excitement of the tournament. Overall, I think it's still going to be over with the men's game.
I'll say this, guys, real quick before we move on. I'm more excited about this year on both sides than I've been in a while because, like you said, Lee, to your point, there are realistically several teams that could win the national championship on both sides if the breaks go the right way. So I'm really, but listen, on the women's side, this is a first. You got Holly Rowe following Caitlin Clark throughout the whole tournament. You got one reporter assigned to one player, so that's nobody else is getting that on the men's side. So, but I think on both sides it's going to be a really good tournament, and it's going to be fun to watch.
Yeah, well, I'll leave it at this. My NCAA tournament for the first time in my life starts on Tuesday. I don't know if you saw, Virginia got in, has to play Colorado State on Tuesday at the play-in game to earn the right to play Texas. I've never cared about the play-in game, so we're gonna see what happens. So, yeah, I know, but they got in. I don't know. I'd maybe rather go to the NIT and play some home games. But all right, last topic, guys. Great conversation. LeBron James. We've talked about this before. And Marv, I'll start with you on this because I think I may know Lee's opinion on it, but should the Lakers extend LeBron? I know one of the things that I've been reading, Marv, is his son's going to be coming out into the NBA. Does he want to play with them? Then you hear he wants to be a Laker the rest of his life. What are your opinions on that?
Sorry, I was on mute, guys. Look, it's what should the Lakers do and what are they going to do? I think is the real question here. So if the Lakers had it their way, I think that they would love for LeBron to become a free agent, right? And to kind of test the market. Because the real asset for the Lakers right now is Anthony Davis. It's not LeBron James, right? Davis is 30. He's 31 years old. Probably the best season he's had in a while from an injury perspective. I know he got hurt the other night, but he's probably got the most value at this point. So the Lakers aren't constructed to win anything. They're not gonna compete. They're not gonna win anything at this point. Let's just be real, man. You got a 39-year-old as the best player on your team. Like if I'm the Lakers, that's what I would hope for, right? But it's still a business and it's still about money, and we know that he's going to retire a Laker. I just see that. Now, if this was about playing with his son, then there's a couple of options that he probably would have. There's a couple teams that have multiple picks in the first round, but it comes to the fact that is Bronny really? I mean, is he really ready for the league? And I think that everybody, if we're being realistic, we would say no. I mean, he's just not at that point yet, right? But I think you got Oklahoma State with multiple first round. Oklahoma City. You got maybe Atlanta, I think, and there's one other, and the Knicks. The Knicks got multiple picks in the first round. Now, if Bronny really wants to, if LeBron really wants to play with Bronny, and a team wants LeBron that bad, say for instance Oklahoma City, you draft Bronny, you got enough space to sign LeBron as a free agent. I mean, there you go. I would think the Knicks would be the perfect scenario for this, for LeBron to end his career and to play with his son, and to be in the Garden and end his career that way. But let's just be real. He gonna be a Laker. He's gonna retire as a Laker. Lakers gonna be stuck in mediocrity. I mean, they got some assets they can kind of deal, but it is what it is.
Yeah. Couple of things for me, Mar. The ideal situation for LeBron James is to end his career in Cleveland, right? For him to go to Cleveland. The Cavaliers draft LeBron, whether they do it in the second round or sign him as a Bronny or sign him as a free agent and end his career in Cleveland. That would be the ideal way for LeBron to finish out his career in Cleveland, near Akron, playing with his son. That's a beautiful thing. That is a beautiful, beautiful thing. I would love that. The Lakers, and you and I have had this conversation, Marv. The Lakers missed the boat when they didn't go after Kyrie Irving this last offseason. Because to your point, and I'm just being honest, and then I'm gonna get into to your point, and I think you sort of misspoke. Anthony Davis is the best player on the Lakers team, not LeBron. Anthony Davis is. And the Lakers should have been in rebuild mode with Anthony Davis while LeBron is still the talent that he is, and they needed that third dominant scorer that they never got. That's why the Kyrie Irving thing made sense to me. Now they need to go ahead. They're going to extend LeBron for 2 years. They're going to. I don't think they should. I think they should really look, if they're looking to advance the team, they should look to find another star to go alongside of Anthony Davis. But I think they're going to extend LeBron. He will finish out his career with the Lakers. And Marv, they still have an outside opportunity to possibly get that third star. I know Dallas is loving Kyrie Irving. And by the way, I have to say this. I know Ray Blackwell is out there. Beautiful left-hand game winner by Kyrie Irving today against Denver. It shows, as I've always said, the greatest ball handler in NBA history. But if they could do that, then the Lakers could come back. But they missed the boat. They didn't want to give up their 2029 draft pick. I never understood that. So, yeah, I think they will extend LeBron. I think it's sort of sets back the team unless they can pick up that third scorer, Mark.
Yeah, I
And by
mean,
the
I
way, Mark,
agree. I think every
go ahead. But I have a question for you after you finish.
No, I think everything you said was really spot on. I don't think there's any doubt that they're gonna extend him. I mean, LeBron wants to be there. His career is in LA after basketball. I don't think he has any envision on retiring anywhere else. I'd like to see him in New York if that could happen. I think it would be a great. I even like the Cleveland idea. I think what you brought up about Cleveland is a great story, a great way to end it. I mean, Dan Gilbert might stand in the way of that, but it would be a great story to see him see him in that way. But the Lakers are pretty much stuck at this point. They got an aging star in LeBron, and they've got another aging superstar in Anthony Davis. That although he stayed healthy this year, I mean we know his history, so it's going to be interesting to see kind of what they do. They got to get some pieces, but when they re-signed what's number 15, Austin Reeves, and they gave him the money that they gave him, it it just kind of showed me kind of the direction that they were in. So, if you're a Laker fan, good luck. That's all I got to say. Good luck.
Yeah, and Chris, you're a Laker fan, and I never understood two things: why they wouldn't come off of the 2029 first round draft pick, and why they wouldn't include Austin Reeves in trade talks. Look, man, Reeves is a good player, but Reeves is not someone that you're going to constantly say that's the big three in Los Angeles. And that's why I said a long time ago, they you know who I wanted them to go after. Marv, I want to ask you this question. And because I've been wanting to ask you this, and we haven't talked about this, so I want to get your opinion. And it's right into that same realm of LeBron. LeBron won a championship in Cleveland. He won a championship in Miami, and he's won a championship in LA. Should LeBron have a statue? And Chris, LA is your team, so I want to get your opinion on this. Should LeBron have a statue in all three locations?
Cleveland. That's it. Hell no to LA. No. Regardless of how you feel, it's still a bubble championship. No. I mean, you got Kareem, you got Magic, you got Kobe, no, man, no. He's not even in the upper echelon of all time great Lakers. Let's just be real at this point. Like,
wow, now that's a problem, Mar. That's a problem.
I mean, Lakers fans on that. I mean, tell me from being a Lakers standpoint, like who are you going to put him above that has a statue? Like, who you putting them above?
Oh, there's no doubt about.
He's not top
Kareem.
5.
Marv, if you're talking about the greatest Lakers of all time, after you go with Kareem, Magic, Kobe, Shaq, who is the fifth? I would throw LeBron in as the fifth greatest Laker. Who else?
I mean,
who else is there?
Jerry West, Elgin Baylor.
No.
I mean, come on, he the logo. You can't.
No.
Elgin Baylor.
Jerry West won
hell,
one championship.
I might. Hell, if we talking about just as a Laker, I might put James Worthy before LeBron.
See, there's something that no, absolutely not.
Are we talking about as a career with the Lakers? If you're comparing career wise,
LeBron has been there long enough to be considered an all-time great Laker. Look what he's done as a Laker.
I don't feel he won a championship in the bubble.
Well, he won a championship. Quit saying the bubble. He won the championship.
I mean, it was a bubble. It has an asterisk by it. If you go to the record book, it got asterisks by it. So I'm just clear. I'm making sure I clarify for everybody. He won a championship in the bubble.
He won just as many championships as Jerry West. He won more than Elgin Baylor.
Yes, he needs a statue in Cleveland. There. I mean, no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Miami, I'm good either way. I would say no. Miami is Dwayne Wade, and that's it to me.
They went to 4 straight finals.
Okay, I mean he did that in Cleveland. He took a bum Cleveland squad to the final. I mean, just look, man. No, Cleveland, yes. Miami, no. LA, hell no.
What about you, Chris? You're a Laker fan. Tell us what you think.
Well, first off, his jersey will be up in the rafters. We already know that. Worthy, hey Marv, I love Worthy, but Magic had a lot of great role players. I think in today's game, people come and go. People come and go. But I honestly wasn't a huge fan of LeBron back in the day. But when he came to the Lakers, I opened my mind a little bit. Hey, don't forget, not only has he won a championship, this is kind of a joke, but he's won the midseason championship or whatever that tournament was that they won. So I'm sorry, I had to say that. But I think, here's my only concern, and this is a little bit off the statue topic, is we're not getting the guys to come to LA that I think that he and AD can surround themselves with. And I think that's one of the things that's bothered me. And Lee, you may disagree, but that's what's bothered me. Now, when you brought the number 29 pick up in Reese, that's the first thing that went through my head is we need to move on stuff like that. And I think we don't do that. And that's what frustrates me because it's the Lakers. I mean, come on. I mean, we have LeBron, we have AD. We should be a team that can dominate where you want to come.
Well, they should have, Chris. I've said it, and I'll continue to say it because they missed the boat. Our players have played with LeBron. I mean, DeRozan would like to be in LA. Paul George went the other route, but Kyrie Irving was sitting courtside all of last year in the playoffs. He wanted to be a Laker. They had a chance to get Kyrie, and they didn't. And that's costing the Lakers. Anybody that knows me will tell you I was pounding the drum for them to get Kyrie Irving because two things. He feels two things. He feels a superstar to go along with Anthony Davis as when LeBron hangs it up, and then he would have helped them immensely towards winning this championship. Ray Blackwell, Marv, you sound crazy. LeBron is the king, and he needs a statue in all three places. So somebody disagrees with you, Marv, on the statues. He needs a statue.
It won't be the first time, but it won't be the first time. That's all right, Ray. We agreed on the other one, but I'm gonna sound crazy on this one because there ain't no damn way he deserves a statue in LA. Ain't no way. Wow. Nothing you can say can convince me of that. Miami, I said I can go either way. It's still that's D Wade town. You can give me either way. Convince me on Miami, but you can't convince me in LA.
Well, Mark, and this last thing
I wish some of my LA fans, and if you ask any LA fan, I've spent plenty of time in Los Angeles, lived there. LeBron is not that dude in LA. He is not considered that in LA.
I like that. Go ahead, recycle. There you go.
Hey,
that's the way to come.
That's CBDs. That's the gummies, man. It's the gummies. I take that to go to sleep. So
he's still messing with his mind, y'all. Look. This, in this era, Marv, everybody gets statues. They're putting statues up for everybody, right? And I can see a situation where LeBron gets statues in all three locations because that's the new thing. We're gonna give you a statue because Marv, he is the fifth best Laker. There's no doubt. You Worthy, no, and you can't Elgin, no. You as far as name recognition.
So that's what we doing now. That's what we doing now. Well, we give it the fifth best in franchise history statues. He getting it because he LeBron. He not getting it because of what he's accomplished in LA. Because he ain't accomplished nowhere near what those other guys accomplished. Okay, so he getting it because he's LeBron. So he's the fifth best Laker of all time, and he getting a statue.
And they all gonna be out in front of what is it, Crypto.com Stadium, and look like they're gonna
they don't have no space, man. They don't have no space.
LeBron's gonna be the point. LeBron's gonna be the point. No, the statue.
No, Magic out there at the point.
Oh yeah, well, Magic would be at the point, but you have the king. I look, LeBron is going to get a statue in all three. Now, I'm not saying deserve and getting is two different things for me, but I think he's going to get statues in all three places. I really do.
Well, I can only go on deserving, and he's not deserving of a statue in LA. You can convince me in Miami, damn sure in Cleveland. LA, nah.
All right.
Well, hey, we had a lot of great back and forth, you guys and our viewers too. A lot of back and forth on the LeBron topic. Hey guys, that's our topics for the day. Anything you guys want to leave on before we sign out? Lee?
Well, look, I'll say this about the upcoming NFL draft. I'm looking forward to that. To see why these quarterbacks are going. We'll dive into that as the draft gets closer. And we'll give you guys our pecking order of who should draft to, and we'll start to do our little mock draft. So I'm looking forward to that. Hey, don't worry, Cowboy fans out there, don't worry. I got your back. I know what's going on with the Cowboys. Don't listen to Marv because he's the number one hater. And then on this Alabama thing, Marv, I don't know. I don't see them. I think they might lose that first game. But hey, that's what they do in the SEC.
All right, Marv, over to you.
No, we us in the SEC, man, we don't even follow that type stuff out. Our history says a whole different story. But Cowboy fans, what you should be concerned with is if your boy got you, then you might need to think about getting a new boy because y'all ain't won nothing in 30 years. So you might need to start calling into the show or commenting in the show to tell what Lee is doing wrong because y'all trash and you're gonna continue to be trash as long as you got somebody like Lee running the show for you. So you might want to reconsider.
Well, as a Cowboy fan, on that note, Lee, I don't know if you want to respond to that real quick or.
No, I have nothing to say. Everybody who knows me know I ride or die with the Cowboys, and I'm in tune with what they're doing. We're going to be all right. We're going to be all right.
All right, well, again, everybody, thanks again. We're after the buzzers. Thanks for watching tonight. Thanks for the comments. Very interactive show tonight. Again, don't forget to like and subscribe to the page. We're here every Sunday, 7 o'clock Eastern, 6 o'clock Central. We want to also shout out our producer, Cassius, who puts all this together for us here on ISF Productions. We also just started a After the Buzzer YouTube page where we'll also upload these to that page. So we'll put that out. Our social media is going up. But again, thank you, everybody, for watching. I'm Chris Sawyer for Marv Orange, Lee Jones. We'll see you next Sunday.
All right, y'all.